Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. In this next occasion, I would like to present my material or my topics in the second ICOTEL 2021. The topic is about the objective and expressive study in William Blake's poem entitled The Sea Crows. Well, there are five chapters in this paper. So the first is the introduction, the second is the literature review, the third is the research method and the findings and analysis, and the last is the conclusion and citation. Okay, we start from chapter 1 is introduction. Well, there are several parts. The first is the background of the problem. Well, the William Blake was an English poet, painter, and printmaker, largely unrecognized during his lifetime. Blake is now accepted, considered a seminal figure in the history of the poetry and visual arts of the Romantic age. One of his masterpieces is The Sea Crows that was published at 1794 when it was included in his collection titled Song of Experience as the 1339 plate. Well, the researcher chooses the poem, The Sea Crows, as material to analyze poem because of several things. The first is this poem is very interesting to study because of the selection of the beautiful words and complex and accompanied with the use of imagery and figure of speech that is increasingly making this poem becomes more meaningful. In addition, this poem was made against the background of a patriarchy where men are dominant attitude towards women. Okay, and then the research objectives is to investigate what are the intrinsic elements of the Sea Crows, studied by the objective approach, and how did Blake's life background affects his emotion in the Sea Crows. And then we continue to the chapter 2. It is about the literature review. Well, there are 4 parts. So the first is about the objective approach. Well, Abrams in 2010 defined that objective approach is a principle regard the work of art in isolation from all these external points of reference. So it can be analyzed as a self-sufficient entity constituted by its parts in their internal relations. And this paper analyzes intrinsic elements based on norm starting technique by Roman Ingarden that can be found and important to discuss, which covers the first layer is about the sound devices, and then the second layer is about the unit of the meaning, and the third layer is about the object setting and story, and the fourth layer is about the word layer, and the fifth layer is the metaphysic layer. We can know this in the findings to apply it in the poems. And then the second is about the expressive approach. Okay, Mario Collar in his book, Expressive Theory is known as author-oriented approach. We can define that expressive approach is the theory in reviewing the literature focusing on the writer as the creator of a literary work. This approach views literature as a literary expression, as the outpouring of feelings or emotions and thoughts of the author, as a product of imagination of the author who work with perceptions, thoughts, or feelings. And then the Romantic age, it is about in 1800 between 1800 and 1850. Well, the characteristic of the Romanticism is it emphasizes passion, emotion, and nature. And then there are some related previous studies. You can see that in this slide. And then the chapter 3, it is about the research method. Well, the research design. In this research, the researcher uses descriptive qualitative methods, and then the subject of the research is the data taken from Blake's poem entitled as The Sea Crows. Based on the above considerations, so the main data of the study were a poem by William Blake, Sea Crows, and 1794. And then for the data collection technique, the researcher uses the theoretical documentation techniques, where there are several steps that the researcher takes when collecting the data. So the first is the researcher collects data taken from the Sick Rose, the William Black's poem. And then the second, the researcher reads the poem carefully and enthusiastically. And the third is, after reading the poem, the researcher emphasizes some important words and phrases that the researcher calls objective and expressive approach. And the fourth is, after the data is detected and completed, the researcher processes and analyzes the data. And finally, the researcher organizes the paper based on the data collected in the last step of the study. And then the data analysis technique. So the first is the researcher collecting the data, and then the researcher identify and classify, and then the researcher analyze. So the researcher can conclude that and drawing the belief in this poem that has been analyzed from the way of means of the author. And then we come to the chapter 4 is about the findings and analysis. So because the main data of this research is the Sick Rose by the William Black, so the researcher will analyze this poem. And then the analysis is based on the objective approach in the first layer, or the sound devices. The first sound in this poem is the use of the alliteration. Mary Claire said that alliteration is the repetition of the same consonant or at the beginning of words in a single line. So the alliteration can be found at the third line in this poem, in that flies in the night. This line is alliteration the in this poem. And then the second layer, in the poem The Sick Rose, the author is still using words with Old English spelling of the period. In addition, each word also describes the diverse meaning. For example, in the first line, there is though. Though is an ancient word from you. And then, in fact, the poem is a metaphor that the rose symbolizes woman or love, which becomes ill when infected with the materialism of the word. And then the third layer is about the object that is raised is the rosebud, sacred love and storm. And then the actor is the worm. The setting of time is in the night, and the setting of place is at the bed in the howling storm. And then the fourth layer is about the word layer. Well, viewed from a point of view, the worm is a bad and lustful. It can be seen in the first stanza that the invisible worm that flies in the night. The word flies means that the worm towards the rose hastily. And then a fifth layer is the metaphysical layer that makes the reader contemplate. In this poem, women seem to be the object of sexuality by the opposite sex. It is a man. And then because of the beauty that is owned by a woman is what makes the woman's self-esteem is lower. Thus, love is not always beautiful. Love can bring destruction, even the death. And then analysis of the Sick Rose by expressive approach. Well, William Black was a romantic poet who explicitly compared the sexual operation of marriage to slavery in works. Blake was critical of the marriage laws of his day. For Blake, law and love are opposite. So in this poetry, Black critiques that a major problem to every love society was corrupt human nature, not merely the intolerance of the society and the jealousy of man, but also the hypocritical of the human nature. He also seems to have though that marriage should afford the joy of love, but that in reality it often does not. As it is known, the couple of being chained often diminishes their joy. Okay, so I can conclude that the poem is by William Black is The Sick Rose is a beautiful poem for the selection and use words differently. The theme used in this poem is love, but William Black serves in the interpretation of love as a feeling that sometimes can hurt or even kill the participants of love itself. And then the suggestion, there are many things that can be discussed about the objective and expressive approach from different perspectives, so that the researcher makes some points that can be used as suggestion and recommendation to the readers. The study presents objective and expressive criticism in poetry. And so the following researchers interested in further research in the same field were advised to use this result as a starting point for conducting their research. So that's all about my presentation about the expressive and also the objective study of the William Black, the Sick Rose. Thank you for your nice attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.